would never have believed it. Psychiatric drugs are obviously not the answer, and yet they are practically everywhere. But if drugs aren't the solution, what is? After all, Matthew was having trouble. His problems were very real. What should I have done for him? For this, I flew to Minnesota to ask Dr. Gary Coles, a medical doctor and an authority on the dangers of psychiatric drugs. Dr. Coles, if I had brought my son Matthew to you, what would you have done?
Well, he surely would never have been on a drug. I would have spent an hour and a half with him at first to try to find out what the root causes were. Make sure he didn't have some physical problem for sure, hypothyroidism, for instance.
So you would have done some basic blood work and
Yes.
physical exam.
Sure, because there's so many things as far as nutrition are concerned, and that can lead to sadness or social situations. What kind of stress was he under, etc. What kind of diet he was under. If we're well nourished and being jilted by a girlfriend or something might not affect us, but if we're malnourished, that might make us angry or depressed or aggressive. Yeah. So I would have taken an extended history. That would have been the most important thing. And then probably if he hadn't had any laboratory tests, I would do some sort of laboratory testing, make sure he wasn't anemic, make sure he didn't have electrolyte abnormalities, make sure that he didn't have any urinary or kidney problems, etc. Make sure he didn't have a brain tumor. All those sorts of things.
So many things that could and should have been done before he was put on a drug.
In my practice in the last 10 years, I never had to put a person on a drug.
Right. Doctor, are there any other underlying causes that you can think of that could have been at the root of Matthew's problem, or other people that go in with these symptoms?
Even though it's most likely some combination of the things we've talked about already, there are certainly physical illnesses, infectious diseases that can contribute.
Allergies? What if there was...
Sure, could be allergies, bacterial infections, mercury in the vaccines, aluminum in the vaccines.
Matthew's room was in the basement, it's a finished basement. Now, there were windows in his room, but still, it gets musty down there. There's
mold.
Are there things that could have...
Toxic fumes, of course. Carpets will have all sorts of toxins in them, funguses and things like that. Mold and mildew are toxic to the body and probably the brain. So there's a list, I'm sure, of hundreds of physical bacterial illnesses that maybe can contribute to chronic fatigue or sadness, perhaps, or lack of energy. So there's a lot of holistic approaches to physical health, mental health, spiritual health, everything. And drugs just alter the brain. They never cure anything, and then they make you permanent patients, which is great for business and bad for patients. And completed suicide is just one of the thousands of adverse effects that the industry refuses to acknowledge. So our brain nutrition is extremely important in mental ill health, getting people off the drugs, good nutrition. That's the way to cure, and then you have lost a patient for life. But that's what doctors are supposed to do.
That's what your goal is supposed to be.
We're supposed to cure people and not make them chronically ill and requiring monthly visits for the 2-minute prescription.
Thank you so much for sharing everything that you know with us.
You're welcome.
It was really wonderful to meet you.
What are you doing?
Say hi to the camera.
Hey.
Say hi.
I have a million number one things that I miss about Matthew. I can't go on a list.
I miss the camaraderie. I miss him at the kitchen table. I miss him at Christmas.
I miss the things that we did together.
Everything. His presents.
I just wish he was still here. I know how much fun he'd be having. I know he would love to see Ryan's little boy and my niece and be there for his family and us.
Next week when I see my other two brothers, as much as everybody's gonna be there, we're still gonna be one man down.
You know, a part of us all went with him, and that part is sorely missed. It is achingly missed.
I don't like that all the people closest to me have got a huge hole and a huge ache that doesn't go away.
They were amazing. Love for each other. Just tore all apart. For some drug companies, bottom line.
My friends get to visit their brothers at college, and they have their little brothers on speed dial. And I have to visit mine in a cemetery. Because someone made a decision that this information wasn't going to make them money. Is what it came down to. Or it wouldn't get their drug approved. So I visit my brother in a cemetery on his birthday, and on my birthday, and on Christmas, and any random day of the week. I go there. But I won't see him get married, and I won't see him have kids. And he won't be there for me when I do those things. Because he's not here.
We've talked a lot about the devastating side effects and of these psychotropic drugs, what they've done to us and to our families, and how we've had to live with the effects of them. But there are other alternatives to taking those drugs, and just wanted to talk a little bit about what they are and what experience you might have with them. Sheila, you didn't put your son on drugs. You elected not to do that. What did you do to help him to get through his situation?
I did tutoring, and basically I took my son there twice a week, and they worked on educational issues such as sequencing. What I found out was that he had a real problem with his language. So it was like a very positive approach to his behavioral issues, because they were underlining educational issues that were not being addressed in the classroom. He needed more one-on-one, which he wasn't getting.
So it was probably making him feel inferior, or, you know, this helped to boost his confidence and made him do better in school.
He did much better in school, and it really helped his self-esteem, and I saw a big improvement. So I did a lot of the educational resources.
And I was just going to add that some students, like in the way the classrooms are, they don't necessarily fit in well, and a lot of parents are now doing homeschooling because their children don't have the pressure of what the school system wants, and I think that for some people that's a really great solution.
I say exercising is a wonderful way to, you know, relieve the stress and to...
There is a study that I found one time that was talking about how great exercise is for you, and when I looked into the study, I found out that they had a group with medication and a group with exercise and medication, and then just an exercise group. The exercise groups did the best, but it's promoted as though they're equal.
Right.
And it's very deceptive because they're not equal. The exercise worked in the study and the medication did not. It made them worse.
Why not take the kid out onto the playground and let them play for 5 minutes? This may be a child who is just wired to need a little bit more physical activity, like your daughter.
Let him with a ball or climb on the monkey bars.
Let him go do that for 5 minutes and then return to the learning activity. It doesn't have to be a fight to make our children learn, for our children to function in everyday society. If that's what that child needs, then let's find a way to give it to them. Let everybody be right so that we can all function here. So there's so much we can do. It's nutrition, it's exercise, it's stuff that our grandparents would have used.
Too, because that's what I did with my son. Start putting a lot of vitamins, all the B vitamins and nothing else. No medication, nothing. and he heals so fast. Unbelievable.
Well, that's another thing. You know, we need to look at blood tests. We need to check for, like you said, medical reasons first. We need to look at what alternatives we can use and not go with medication. There's so many things we can do. We brought up so many points here, and none of them involving medication.
Matthew's got the ball. Go get Annie. He's gonna take him to the hole. He's gonna smoke him.
Come on.
And the crowd goes wild. And little Stu buries his brother, 22-20.
He was my little brother. I remember the day that he became not so much cooler, but just my equal. Like, I remember the day where everything flows downhill, you start beating up your little brother, but I remember the day that he actually looked at me and said no more. And we started looking at each other as equals. You want to go on vacation, you want to do this together, you want to do that together, and just, he started becoming my best friend. And he shouldn't have been so on these pills that it fucked him up. I mean, like, one day he's way happy and then the next day he's just way out of his mind sad, and I'm just like, what's wrong, man, what's going on? And it's just, one day we're best friends and the next day he just don't even know who he is anymore. I didn't know what to do, so I just leave him alone. I tell him all the time, I miss him. I miss him. I wish he was here. I wish we didn't have to do this shit for him. Like, it just sucks, man. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like what it's made me. I don't like what it's made my family. It's destroyed us, man. Like, in a sense, it's grown us tighter as a family, but in a sense, it's just fucked everything up, man. It's just ruined everything. Oh, fuck.
Every April 25th, we get together to celebrate Matthew's birthday. We make a cake, share fond memories, and remind ourselves of how lucky we are to have known him.
We love him, we miss him, and we are so grateful for all of you who have supported us through this.
You could say it's our way of healing, but the pain never really goes away. Of course, we aren't the only ones. There are all the brave women I had met who continue to speak out in spite of the emotional hurt it must bring them. They were all so moving. Sheila, who fought her entire school district for the right to leave her child unmedicated. Irma, who got her son out of a psychiatric hospital where he was involuntarily incarcerated after a mix-up of medications gave him hallucinations. Matthew, whose daughter killed herself while on psychiatric drugs given to her only because she was nervous before tests. Vicky, whose poor, sweet little girl died in her arms. Amy, whose violent drug reaction toward her own baby should frighten any new mom. Christian, who was assured she could take psychiatric drugs while pregnant, and whose baby, Indiana, paid the ultimate price. Karen, bringing her foster children back from the depths of psychiatric drug toxicity. And of course, my daughter Annie, Matthew's sister and best friend, without whom I couldn't have made it through this process. These are my friends, and if there's one lesson I have learned from them, it's that as parents, we are the last line of defense for our children. Because when something goes wrong, the mental health professionals are never around to pick up the pieces. Our children need us,